Must be a delay.
It's live.
Is it live?
Yep.
Well, that was a great intro, Chris. That was probably the best we've ever done. Welcome to the Green Beret Life. I am Matt. Dude in the glasses is Chris. I completely screwed up the live, thinking we weren't live yet. So, welcome tonight. We want to make a quick apology. Last week, we had somebody commenting. Was it on Rumble, Chris, or Odyssey?
Rumble, I think.
Okay, I think it was Rumble, and they were commenting down below in the comments instead of in the chat, and we didn't see it until afterwards, and we felt extremely bad about it. So we're going to try to keep an eye on both the chat and the comments, and go from there, because we always talk how we like the interaction with you guys, and we absolutely do. I want to take a moment here. We are a 501c3. And we talk about doing training, and I want to announce something that we do have coming up. I don't know who is in the area up here, but the area of Grantsburg, Wisconsin, which is right outside the Twin Cities by about an hour north of the Twin Cities, on Wisconsin, the Wisconsin side of the river. So it's just across the border. We are doing a free for vets and their spouse, right? Pistol Fundamentals and CCW class. It's going to take place on the 9th of September here we're going to do the range time at Grantsburg Rod and Gun Club. And for right now, depending on how big this gets, the classroom portion is going to be held at Darla and Cliff's Country Store in Grantsburg. So I want to put that out there. That is 100% free to vets. If anybody's in the area or knows somebody in this area, it's 100% free to vets. They have to bring 100 rounds of ammo. They have to bring hearing protection, eye protection, and a $5 range fee, because that's what the range, they sort of help us out and only charge us $5 per student. So a $5 range fee, but everything else is free. So that's going to be on September 9th, which is a Saturday, in Grantsburg, Wisconsin, and the range portion will take place at 11 o'clock, is when we're going to start at the Grantsburg Rod and Gun Club. If you have any questions, get a hold of us. You can get a hold of us via the website. What's the website, Chris? Or the email?
The Green Beret Life at gmail.com.
Excellent. So if you have any questions or if you're interested, please reach out to us. I know we have some contacts within the Twin Cities that's working with the DAV. There may be some busing coming up from the Twin Cities via the DAV. We're working on that now. It's not secured. But once again, if you're a vet and you're interested, please come on up and take part in this CCW Pistol Fundamentals class. We want as many patriotic Americans, patriotic vets who have already established their patriotness, right? To have the opportunity to get some pistol training and get their CCW to join the ranks, if they already aren't, as responsible citizens exercising their constitutional rights. Right. And this subject's going to lead into sort of what we're going to talk about tonight a little bit. As you know, we've sort of changed our format up a little bit. We're not talking so much about, the news of the day in politics, because everybody's hitting those same subjects. We're trying to talk about some things that are on the periphery that maybe meld in with these things, but different subjects. And tonight we're going to talk about situational awareness. And one of the reasons why we want to talk about this, Chris and I were having a conversation. We were watching some of these videos online from some people that we trust. Dan Bongino's a guy that I like, and I know Chris likes. Alex Jones. If people are under attack, they're probably by the bad guys. They're probably good guys, right? Alex Jones has said some crazy shit in the past, and guess what? He's been right more often than he's been wrong, right? So yeah, I remember getting made fun of back in 5th group by somebody who says, "You listen to InfoWars." Da, 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 da. I'm not going to tell you who that was, Chris, but I'll tell you later off the air. But it turns out Alex Jones that's why they went after him first. That's why they went after him first. And isn't it funny? Both sides attacked him. Both the rhinos and the Democrats were telling you these people are showing you who they are. So we're going to talk about some situational awareness. And one of the things we're talking about is there's been a recent, there's an election going on down in Ecuador, and the populist candidate down there, Villa Vincenzio, I believe is his name. Pardon me if I screwed that up, but was assassinated and shot 3 times in the head and killed, like weeks before this election, right? Dan Bongino and Alex Jones have both expressed concern that they fear for Donald Trump's life. And Chris and I both have expressed this concern in the past, because we're seeing right now this over the top craziness that we're seeing, not just in our country, but across the world. Okay. I truly believe is the deep state globalist establishment cabal kicking back, because in 2016, a huge monkey wrench was thrown into their whole plan, and it woke up a large portion of not just the US, the world. And we're on YouTube right now, so I can't really get into details, but we know that a certain event happened a few years ago, and we know what went on there. Everybody knows what went on there. Anybody who is intellectually honest and has been paying attention knows what is going on. You guys know what I'm talking about. So we're going to talk about being situationally aware out in public, and it's not anything. It's like shooting, Chris, right? There's nothing groundbreaking about any of this, but what it is having the discipline to tell yourself to do it when you're not used to doing it, to where it becomes a habit, and then it's second nature. Kind of like the 5 fundamentals of shooting. You do it so often to do it the right way. You force yourself to kind of do this, whereas they start to work together and it becomes second nature, and you're automatically doing things without really thinking too much into it, right? Do you have anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, really, the big part of situational awareness is a discipline to have. Just keep that watchful eye out,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of things that can catch your eye, and then you end up, your brain gets detached from a little bit to on something, and then you might miss something. But the real thing is trying to maintain some discipline, but at the same time go through with what you're supposed to be doing there or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, we're not saying you can't have fun. We're just saying, hey, just keep a watchful eye out, you know,
And,
and and have some kind of discipline and a plan ready.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to get into planning and all this. Chris and I have been taught many different scenarios of this, but you hear Chris and I always talk about blue collar logic. The best plan is usually the simplest plan, right? And what we say is not gospel. We encourage you to come up with ideas on your own. Now, test those ideas to make sure that they're sound, but there are other ideas out there that you can have to add to your situational awareness plan that you just came up with. You used your blue collar logic, you came up with it, and you follow through on it. So what we're saying is you don't have to do the things. And if you've been hanging out with Chris and I long enough, you're going to understand that we do not say there is one way to do anything. There's multiple ways to do things, right? We do not say that what we've been taught has been the only way to do something. People that tell you that are being a little bit dishonest, I think, or maybe not completely as up on the subject as they think they are. But Chris and I have used these things overseas, and a lot of times, I'll give you an example. We would go to a school and learn all these new techniques, but when it came down to how we operated, it was a team SOP that we came up within the team, right? Using the stuff that we've learned, right, Chris?
Hmm.
and
Yep.
then massaging it so it makes sense for us, because it's very important. This is why we say things need to be simple. It's very important that everybody is on the same page and you can work seamlessly with one another, right? If you start making things overly complicated, people aren't going to be on the same page, even though they may be there and say, yeah, I understand what's going on. There might be something they're not 100% sure with, and they don't want to raise their hand because they don't want to look like they're not paying attention, or they're not smart, or something along those lines. It is always best to go with the simplest plan you can take. A brilliant person can take something complicated and make it simple. Put it that way. Not taking something simple and making it complicated. So this is what we're going to hit tonight. I hope you guys understand what we're talking about. But the reason why I think it's so important, and we talk about our Second Amendment rights, right? The United States is unique for one very, very important, for multiple reasons, but one here that separates us from everybody else in the world, essentially. And that is what, Chris? What separates us from everyone else in the world?
Freedom of speech, man.
Freedom of speech. And then what's after freedom?
Constitution.
What after
The,
freedom of speech?
the
The
right
second,
to
the
the
Second
right to
Amendment.
bear arms.
That's exactly right. The right to bear arms, you know? And that ain't just wearing a tank top at the beach if you're, built like Chris and myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
second form of a right to bear arms. You know what I mean? Twisted steel and whatnot. But anyways, so
I was
anyways,
just twisting some steel earlier.
you were twisting some
Yeah.
steel. And
Yeah.
Chris has a shirt. He flexed and the arms fell off the damn thing.
It's
But
crazy.
it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, but what we're trying to say is we have a Second Amendment in this country, and that Second Amendment allows us to be citizen patriots, and anybody who's carrying a firearm lawfully with their CCW and following all the laws, which we encourage. Okay, follow the laws, right? Anybody who does that, you have now got to be paying attention to what the hell's going on around you. So if you're going to a Trump rally or anything else, you need to pay attention, not just to Trump, anywhere you go, right? But we're saying this, we're all fearing that somebody's going to go after Trump. If these lawsuits don't work against him, believe me, they're going to ratchet it up. They're scared to death of Donald Trump and what he's going to do to the deep state. He's going to dismantle it. If we can somehow get him back into office, a wrecking ball is going through Washington, D.C., and they know it, right? He spent the first 4 years figuring out what the hell was going on, and his eyes were opened, right? Now he knows, he's got the receipts and knows where to go and what to do. And now he's building the correct team behind him to get this done and to make sure that the country is by and for the people, not the elites. That's where we need to get back to, where the rule of law is respected again. Our Constitution is respected again. You don't have people being brought up on bogus charges like we're in a banana republic or anything else. We need to get him back there. And you as a citizen need to make sure that we are looking out for other patriots, from Donald Trump all the way down. We need to be looking out for other patriots. And that means we need to follow our gut instincts in many cases, because that's data that we're getting subconsciously. That's where the sixth sense comes from. We're taking in data that we're not necessarily paying attention, that we're trying to take in that data. We're just getting it, and it's clicking things off in our brain, right? But we also need to make sure that if we go to one of these events, we're not just looking at the stage and seeing what's going on around there. We're seeing if somebody's acting goofy. We're seeing if there's a disturbance somewhere. We're seeing if somebody is not quite dressed the way they should be, i.e. long coat in the middle of summer, right? We can see these things ahead of time, right? And maybe that means, hey, I see something funny. I'm going to tell, the security that's here, there's something going on right there. I don't trust that guy right there. I saw something up there. You get what I'm saying? On and on and on, right? But also, planning comes into a lot of this, Chris. And let's talk about planning a little bit. Like, say you're going to go out to an event or go anywhere with your family and whatnot. Describe some of the things that we need to take into consideration with that, Chris.
Well, I really think there's a couple of things that that you really need to look at. One is if you're going to look at be in a building or some kind of huge amphitheater, or whatever the structure is, you probably want to take a look at the anywhere you can probably get even like I think you mentioned it earlier when we are kind of discussing, was a layout of like a an arena,
Mm-hmm.
right? That has exits
Mm-hmm.
marked. They do that just in case the place catches on fire.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It used to be it's on fire, but now we know there's other things that happen in these arenas that people need to get out of there. Just example, malls, or, you know, bigger places like this, or, whatever arena or enclosure that you might find yourself, there's always going to be some exits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that was one of the primary concern is to kind of take a look and see where the exits were. And maybe if there's assigned seating, you might want to take a look and see what exit is near you,
Mm-hmm.
nearest you, so you can get out of the building or structure or whatever it is as fast as possible and
As
get
well
back
as
to your.
alternate exits too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to have what we commonly call as a PACE, right? A
Mm-hmm.
PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. Uh, you may just need a primary and alternate, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Um, at least you have those, a backup to your original plan, and that way you can at least follow through and have the discipline to follow through with one of those too. So,
And
I
you'll
mean,
hear Chris and I use terms like ingress and egress. I think most of you guys understand this. This is the entrance and the exits. That's all that means. And it could apply to many things. Where you park your car, okay? How you can get back to the expressway to get home, or if that's blocked off, are there other alternate routes that you can take for your mode of egress if you need to get out, right? But Chris is exactly right. You can look at pretty much wherever you're going, whether it's a big event, a small event, wherever that's at. Even if you were going at a stadium, you can look at that stadium. Most places will have layouts of those stadiums online. You could also look at Google Earth, right, to give you an idea of what's there and what's behind it. And you've heard us talk about, even like if you're in a restaurant, understanding where your modes of getting in and getting out and where you can sit to try to keep your eye on the room as much as possible. Now, in a big stadium, that becomes a little more difficult, but that's where it requires multiple patriots to be doing the same thing, right? Be doing the same thing and looking out for our other patriots. Maybe there are some really bad guys that want to hurt a bunch of Patriot supporters, and they're planning, like what they did with the Boston bomber, planning goofy shit like pressure cookers all over the place. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Things look goofy, and what we really need to do, we have to be unafraid of saying, "Hey, I might be wrong, but something there does not feel right to me. Doesn't feel, I don't like that right there. I'm going to go and get somebody and show them. I'm going to tell other patriots about it too." Right? And if somebody does this to you and says, "I don't feel quite right about this," look at that right there. Take them seriously. Take them seriously. Um, we don't want to get ourselves in a position where we see something getting ready to happen and we don't say anything because we think everybody's going to think we're crazy if we're wrong. We are now in crazy times, so we need to be at one with one another, and we need to be looking out for it. This is one of the common themes from the day we started this show. Okay, you stand with other patriots, right? You stand with other patriots, period. And if patriots catching fire, catching incoming fire for something that they're doing that's righteous, right? Guess what? You stand with that patriot. Like if they're trying to get canceled over something, right? because they told the truth on something, or it's an unpopular opinion. If somebody is taking heat, that's doubly important that you go and stand with that patriot, right? We are past the point of trying to just be left alone in this and that and the other thing. Our country is being dismantled as we speak, right? And
And
there's some. Go ahead, Chris.
and here's the thing. You have with everything said, at the end of the day, you have the inherent right to self-defense. Okay?
Mhm,
Regardless of where you're at or what you're doing, who you're with, for whatever purpose, you have the inherent right to self-defense. And does that mean that you need a weapon to defend yourself? No, it doesn't. That means you can defend yourself with other means you have necessary, um, at your disposal, whether you pick up a stick or you pick up a brick or whatever it is, or to defend yourself. You have that right to defend yourself no matter what you're doing. Okay.
mhm,
And like you mentioned, times are crazy. Times are crazy. You
mhm,
know, um, you just got to be careful. And just the other day, as an example, just the other day, I'm pumping gas at a gas station.
mhm,
Okay. Um, this guy comes up. I get in the car. And you know what? I'm gonna take this back a little further. So, real quick, my wife is me and my wife practice things, paying attention to our surroundings and stuff like this. And as I got into the car, she goes, "Hey, this guy that's headed toward the car, he's been standing up by the building watching you pump the gas." Right? I said, "Okay, interesting." So he comes to the side of the door that I'm on, and I just get in and I lock the doors real quick. Um, but he's trying to tell me something, and I'm like, "No, dude, move on, move on." But here's an example of, like, she was watching the guy. He didn't had nothing. He had nothing in his hands. Oh, he did. He did have a cell phone in one hand and a cigarette in the other.
mhm.
Right. But I don't know what his intentions are. Here's an example of what I'm telling you is you don't know what this guy's intentions were.
Mhm.
Um, he just wanted money.
Yeah,
Okay. So, but
yeah,
I didn't know that until he's like, "Hey, can you help me out with some money?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever, bro."
yeah. You had enough money to buy those cigarettes,
Yeah.
which are like $40 a carton, $50 a carton, right?
Yeah. Or a cell phone. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Come on,
exactly.
bro. Come on. But an example of situational awareness, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Even with somebody you're with, you know?
Here's another point too that I want to make. Um, have common courtesy with people. Be kind first and foremost. There's some people out there that might just be having a bad day, or they can be complete assholes. Okay, don't feed that negative energy. If somebody accidentally bumps into you or something along those lines, don't necessarily engage in a negative way. Try to engage in a positive way. You know what I mean? If you see somebody, nod your head at them. Hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? Uh, Smile at people. Don't put out that negative charge. And sometimes some asshole might just be on the limit, and he's looking for something, right? And you don't give him what he's looking for, and you avoid the situation. The best scenario with any of these things is to avoid the situation in the first place. And that's the biggest thing with situational awareness. Situational awareness is about paying attention in advance, right? So you can spot problems and mitigate those problems before they ever happen. Whether that means you see a bunch of gangbangers 100 feet down the road that are harassing people, you can take an alternate route before you get there. If you're not paying attention, you're not gonna notice it. Now, in the classes that Chris and I teach, we talk about Colonel Jeff Cooper's color codes of awareness, right? And I think USCCA is big on them too. But pretty much anybody who teaches CCW talks about these. But you can apply it to so many things, and it's basically a military system and technique. Okay, Colonel Jeff Cooper was a Marine. He was pretty much the godfather of common handgun training that we have today. He founded, I believe, Gunsight, the big training facility out in Arizona. Um, he's since passed away, but he brought from the military this concept, the color codes of awareness, and applied it to self-defense and carrying a firearm, right? And it insists, it basically it's talks about different colors to different scenarios of where you are on that level of awareness. So white would be the where you start off, and that's unaware. Okay. And unfortunately, today we have these big distractions, these little mini computers that we call cell phones. So you've seen people that don't want to engage with other people, don't know how to be social. They bury their face in those phones and don't pay attention what's going on anywhere. And Chris, what is the criminal? What is it's if you go into the wild, okay, and you look at a pride of lions and a bunch of gazelles, what are those lions looking for, Chris?
They're definitely looking for like the weakest one,
They're
maybe the
tech
one lagging
sometimes.
behind,
Yes. So
you know.
sometimes it might be the weakest, but it's the one who's not paying attention that might be, like what Chris said, off away from the pack. Because
Hmm.
the pack is where the safety is, right? Off away from the pack isn't. So he might be there chewing his grass and whatnot, and he's daydreaming, and next thing you know, the pack is away from him because he hasn't been paying attention. And there's that pride of lions looking at him and saying, you know what? That's our guy. He may be a big buck, right? But he ain't paying attention, and we can get close and we can surprise him. Well, in the human animal does the same thing, right? The human animal does the same thing. If you're a person that's paying attention to what's going on, you're walking with a purpose, you look like, you've got a sense of business about you, you're not going to be the one that the criminal's going after. The criminal's going to go after the individual that's not paying attention, that they can sneak up on and surprise. And sometimes that might be the smallest person there and the weakest, and sometimes it might not be. It might be the bigger person there that's just not paying attention. That is what people single out on. And this is another thing that this when it comes to personal safety that you need to be doing. And you can do this as a unit, like if you're with your family, right? So white means unaware. We never want to be unaware. Okay. Never, 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 never. Okay. And some of these color codes we're going to apply to personal SOPs that we come up with ourselves, right? So the next one down the list is called code condition yellow. Okay. Condition yellow is you're aware. You're not paranoid. You're aware. You're making eye contact with people, not staring them down, maybe smiling, nodding your head, but paying attention to what the hell is going on around you. You're walking with a purpose, right? You don't have your hands in your pocket looking down at your feet and stumbling along. You're walking with a purpose. You're looking at everything that's going on around you, right? Everything that's going on around you. You're not paranoid. You're just naturally paying attention, right? That's where we want to be, Chris, right? We want to be in yellow,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Be looking around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if somebody's with you, have them start to look around too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just keep a watchful eye out. If you see something, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, be aware of what's
Be
going
aware of
on.
what's going on. So now we're going to escalate it a little more. But the importance of this is we're paying attention and we're seeing threats before we step on them, right? We're seeing potential threats before we step on. We're seeing something funny that just doesn't feel right that we think other people need to know about, right? Thought I saw something that looked odd from the top of that building over there, right? Something's odd, right? Um, I just saw a window get broken on that hotel. Remember the Las Vegas shooting, right?
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, but these are things that we need to do. So now we're going to escalate it a little bit because the next color in the color code of awareness, we've gone white unaware, yellow aware. Now we're going into orange. Okay. Orange is we've noticed something. Okay. Whether if we're walking up a street and we see a guy standing on the corner, nobody there, and he's staring at us, right? Like Like Chris's wife saw the guy staring at Chris while he was pumping gas and then starts walking over. That probably takes you from yellow to orange, because now you've seen something and you've got to have a plan. What is this plan? Okay. What is this plan? Can I take evasive action? Right? Can I get in the car and lock the doors and start it up? Right? Simple things like this are what we're doing this for, right? So Chris's wife let him know. Okay, Chris was operating in condition. What, Chris, were you operating in when you were pumping gas?
I was probably in the yellow. I was looking around. You know what I mean?
You
And
were
I was
you were milky yellow. Put it that way.
yeah,
You were, because you didn't notice this guy, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you were milky yellow, maybe, because I've never seen you in full white, right?
right.
So so um, but Chris didn't notice, but his wife did, right? And they're working as a team in that case, right? And so so now, Orange, something is wrong. We've got to start coming up with a plan. And you've heard Chris and I talk about this. We talk about it all the time. We talk about wargaming. And this is part of planning, right? Because you should constantly be going through what if scenarios. What if, okay? What if I were to go down this alley and some dude jumps from behind that dumpster and he's got a knife or a gun, or what would I do, right? And it's not necessarily that you're planning exactly what's going to happen to you. All you're doing is you're prepping your brain. You're prepping your brain for action. Okay. So, say you're not going down the alley, but some dude uh, is flying in his car, not paying attention as you get to cross the alley and almost hits you. But you're paying attention. And now you can react because maybe you heard something come in, something didn't say, like, oh shit, before I step out in front of this car, right? Because your brain is prepped for action, right? You're standing in a convenience store. You see somebody come in that looks nervous. They're looking around. They've got their hand inside their jacket, right? Is he got a hand on his gun? Okay, what would I do if this guy has a gun and he's going to do something here, right? Because you've already sort of figured out, where's my cover, where's my concealment. Chris, what's the difference between cover and concealment?
So concealment provides you with just that concealment. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't provide you any protection from debris or fragmentation or anything like that.
Bullets,
Um,
any of that.
just consider like this: smoke is concealment.
Mm-hmm.
Cover is like being behind a cement wall.
Correct.
Okay.
Perfect way to put it, Chris. So you've already sort of looked in there and said, what's my cover? What's my concealment? In a convenience store, you're probably going to have concealment, not much cover. Okay. So you've already come to a plan. Okay. If this guy does something funny, what am I going to do? Right? What am I going to do? So you're prepping your brain for action. The same thing here. You've already prepped your brain for action. You're in orange. Something ain't right, but your brain is prepped for action. So now you're starting to get ready. What are my options? The best option is get away from it. That's always the best option. It isn't cowardice. The best option is getting away, getting your family away. Here's something to also consider. If you're with somebody, if you're with your family or any of that, and you get in an altercation with something and you go down, guess what? That family member might be there to fend for themselves. So wouldn't it have been much better to fricking get away from whatever conflict that was and to avoid it? No matter how much pride you might have to swallow, absolutely get away from it, right? Okay. So now we've really been spacing it. Okay. We've really been spacing it. And now we happen to turn the corner on a city street, and there is a group of dudes that is now coming after us. This is condition red. We know, we are now under a threat, right? Does that mean if we're under a threat, can we still run, Chris? Can we still get
Absolutely.
ourselves out of there? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a valuable option.
Mm-hmm. So if we can't get out of there now we've got to lean on our training a little bit and some of the stuff that we've prepared for, right? And now we've got to make a decision. Where do I finally, say, okay, enough. Maybe I'm going to just draw and brandish, not necessarily point it at anybody, and start shouting commands. Stay back, right? Somebody coming at you with a knife. What am I going to do, right? Now we also have to be very, very aware that a human being can cover a lot of ground in a very short period of time if we're not paying attention and we step into something, right? So we may have fractions of a second to make these decisions up. This is why wargaming is always, always, always important. You're getting that slight step ahead instead of that, oh, shock and awe. This is really happening. Now what should I do? What are my options, right? You know, you don't want to be in that funk. You want to be prepared, right? Chris, when we're going out in missions, our head is on a swivel, right? We're
Absolutely.
prepared. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're saying what if, what if, what if all the freaking time, right? And then reacting when something pops up, right? So these are the color codes of awareness. It's white, unaware, yellow, aware, where we want to be, right? Always. You should never be out with a firearm and not be in yellow, okay? Orange, we've noticed something that's a potential threat. Red, a definite threat, okay? So these are the color codes of awareness. It's just it's a good indicator as far as training ourselves and our family for what could possibly happen. Now, now, when we go to a place and we're saying we're staying in yellow, there's some techniques. Chris, describe what your technique is just for simply walking into a restaurant. What would you do if you were in that restaurant? Say it's a busy, medium-sized town, and you're going to get something to eat for lunch. Describe to everybody how you would go through that process of remaining in yellow but setting yourselves up for success, right? Talking about ingresses, egresses, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, so if I've never been in this place before, I'm definitely here's more than likely if you're going into a place, think about this. If you are in a place where you have to wait to be seated, this gives you some time to look around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you may be you may be first in the door, you may be second or third in the door, but you understand that you have some time because the waitress is going to put you wherever you want to be. Okay, typically, but if you're just going to say let her do it or whatever, and that's usually what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I very rarely see anybody in a restaurant go, well, hey, we'd like to set over there, but
Mm-hmm.
keep this in mind, you always have that option. Okay, you don't always have to follow the norm and sit where the waitress wants you to go. So take some time. This is a perfect opportunity to kind of take some time and look around the restaurant. Okay, you might want to look for some exits. It might even be where you came in. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, where you come in the door to a restaurant is not the only exit in that building. All
Mm-hmm.
right, because again, fire code say so many people in a restaurant or whatever, there's got to be so many exits, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So take that time, do a little, just a cursory search around the restaurant, right? So if you are going to be seated by the hostess, um, and you find that this seating is not right, again, you can ask to move. But if you're comfortable with the seating, you probably want to seat yourself looking at the entrance. Okay. Now, I typically like to sit looking at the entrance. All right. And I'm fully aware where the exits are and things like that. And maybe if I'm feeling, eh, if the hair in the back of my neck stands up, I probably just leave the place, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if there was something I didn't like outside, it probably just wouldn't even come in. Okay, so all things considered, I'm in a comfortable position now. I'm going to get something to eat. The hostess has set me in a place that I like, and now I'm going to watch the door, um, and enjoy my meal. But at the same time, um, I can carry on a conversation, but watch the door and comfortably look around and things like this. So this positioning is very important,
Hmm.
I think, in the restaurant. Do you agree with all this?
I agree with all of it. You can even do little recons of the place because you get to see a little more of the place. If going to the bathroom, or if whoever you're with goes to the bathroom, they can do a little bit of a recon. It might sound crazy, but this stuff is legit today. Okay, it's legit today, and we can run that little war game scenario in our head. If someone were to come in here and start doing something like trying to rob the whole restaurant or something, right? What would I do? Right? What would I
Right.
do? So even the way, how would I get out of my chair? That's one thing, right? So that's an important thing because you can get stuck in a booth real easy, right? You can
Hmm.
get stuck, in some of these tables the way they try to jam as many as they can into one restaurant. Okay, but these scenarios don't change, right? You're looking for odd behavior. We talk about sixth sense because Chris just said if the hair on the back of his neck stands up and he decides he might just leave, right? um don't ever doubt your sixth sense. You've heard stories of dudes in Vietnam that said, I don't know why, I was on point, I told everybody to hit the deck. Right when I did, we were ambushed, right? Shots rang out, they were flying, I would have been killed, right? Okay. Your sixth
Yep.
sense, in my explanation, is subconscious, and I mentioned this already, subconscious data that your brain is taking in without you consciously thinking about it. Okay. And when something is not right, right? Might be a smell that you weren't paying attention to, but your brain is picking up on. It might be some movement or behavior. It might be a sound. It could be many different things, right? But that is telling you something. Believe it. Okay. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, you were wrong, right? But if you have a sixth sense that something ain't right, something's probably not right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is just experience that both Chris and I have had, and I'm sure all of you out there have had some of those experiences like that. Now, what Chris just described is the process of being in a restaurant. You could apply that to anywhere, even to a big event. Say we were going to the Trump rally, right? Here's another thing. Start talking to some of the people around you. Don't just stay in your little hole, right? If you're at a Trump rally, these are probably going to be your type of people, or if you're at any type of political rally, right? They're probably going to be people that are, with you. So, if you see something goofy, now you can start talking to other people about it. Hey, did you notice that over there? Check that out, right? I just saw something right up there. Now you're starting to get some teamwork motivated in because you were paying attention. Your neighbor may not have been paying attention until you've now alerted him to it, right? And he can alert the other guy. What are you guys looking at? When somebody starts looking inside of a stadium, what happens, Chris?
It tends to catch on like
Yes,
wildfire.
it's exactly right. It's like a wave. It's like
Yeah.
a wave. And that's because you were paying attention, right? So, yes, they have Secret Service at these things, especially if it's Trump involved and stuff like that. But they can't see everything, right? And knowing what we know, people can infiltrate some of these things too, right? So you've got to be ready and prepared, and you've got to get other people that are in your sphere of influence prepared and start paying attention to what is going on around you and coming up with a plan. So you might want to say, I'm going to war game this. What if I were to see something funny? What if I were to see somebody place a backpack down in these bleachers over here and then leave? You know what I mean? What's my plan of action on that? Well, the first thing is I'd be telling a lot of people about it right off the bat. See that guy just put that backpack down? Okay. The guy turns around, drops a backpack off, and starts to leave. Maybe it's time to get a hold of that dude. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Say, hey man, you dropped your backpack. Don't forget your backpack, dude. Right? Now what's probably going to happen if he was doing something shady, right? He's probably going to try to get the hell out of there fast. Right? Now you know something's on. Right? So just talk to people around you. Talk to them. Say, I'm just paying attention to what's going on, and I saw something funny right there. Notify security, things along these lines. Now, say something does happen, right? This is where Chris and I were starting to talk about having a plan. a plan ahead of time. Remember, we said at the very beginning of this thing, okay, what uh, what can we do to prepare ourselves to go into this big event, right? We can look at the facility, we can look at the ingress, we can look at the egress, we can look at places we're going to park. We're going to see where those places that we can park that are going to allow us to get out of the area as fast as possible. And we're going to have multiple options, right? This sounds like it's tons of planning, but it really isn't. It's the simple looking at a map or knowing the area, right? That's really what it is. Okay. Um, there's another thing that can happen if you are in a big space and you're with other people, right? And something happens. What's going to happen, Chris? You're probably going to get what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you're just people are just gonna go nuts,
And you're going to get
right?
separated from the
You're
people
you're
that you're with.
you're gonna get, yeah. There's a good chance that you will get separated.
Okay.
So
So now you need to have a plan in case you get separated, right? And that plan also may mean that everybody needs to have a watch on them, which most people do with a phone, right? But phones can get lost. But a watch is nice. Make sure everybody is synced up on their watch, right? Because you're going to have a plan. And Chris, do you want to go through that plan and talk about what, for sort of fill in the gaps on what I'm saying here? So say you go with your family or a group of friends, shit happens, you get separated. What do you do to alleviate that?
okay, so the first thing is to make sure everybody really knows, the simplest version of the plan. And we have this thing we're saying, keep it simple, stupid. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
because in a heightened situation, everybody just freaks out. Their
mm-hmm,
brain goes crazy because they want to know what's going on, but there's madness and people are running everywhere, and it's craziness. So, what is the simplest thing to do? Hey, you're going to go from point A to point B, and point B might be the vehicle. All right.
mm-hmm,
But to
mm-hmm,
get from point A to point B, here's where the planning comes in. It might be a distance or whatever. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Might be a distance where people maybe you had to go some stairs or an escalator. Okay. Or um
So, so,
some
so,
kind of
Chris,
security
before
gate.
before you go farther, that point, that saying, if we get separated, we're all going to meet up here. What's that point called?
It's called a rally point.
Rally point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can assign these points and even beforehand or while you're in this whatever region or facility you're in, you can say, hey, if something goes crazy, meet me at this point. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And that
Mm-hmm.
might just be because here's an example. What if somebody gets up and maybe has to go to the bathroom, or they want to get a drink, get some popcorn, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They now you've become separated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
something happens during that time frame, then you're definitely each of you are definitely going to the rally point. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get to the rally point, then you can move to the point B or whatever your next point is to try to get out of whatever situation you're in and get to a safe spot.
Now, sometimes there's points in between rally points. So there might be, you might have a time hack. Okay. So it might be not the car. That might be the ultimate rally point. But before you get there, maybe the car's too far away to make that your point. Uh, let's meet at the exit uh, along that concrete wall as you're coming into the stadium that we saw on the south side. Let's meet there. That's a checkpoint, right?
Hmm.
So we're going to go and meet at that checkpoint. If you don't see me there by 7:05, I want you to move on to the rally point, right? Or to
Yep.
another rally point. Maybe the rally point is the car. There's a big crowd around the car. You can't get the fuck out with the car. You have to go somewhere else, right? So you're going to have that what plan? What's that plan called again, Chris?
The contingency plan, the
Yeah,
alternate plan,
yeah. The pace plan. The
pace.
pace plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So your primary might be one thing and you might get there and that might all go to hell. So you have to have an alternate. You go to the alternate. This sounds like it's tough, but it's not. It's really not. Okay. This is 10 minutes of planning. 10 minutes. Right. So
And you
Uh,
can do this even entering into the whatever event or
hmm
whatever. This can be done just talking through simple things on the way in,
hmm
to get your ticket. Hey, this is where I plan on leaving if something happens. You know, there
hmm
might be 6 or 7, 10 sets of exit doors there. You know, one of those doors is gonna be open. Somebody will open that door at some point. You know,
and yep. And this is all in lieu of, you can always call somebody on a phone, but guess what? If we lose our phone in the melee or something else, you have to have something else that's solid, right? Because everybody's like, well, why don't you just pull out your phone and say, I'm standing here and there? Nope. Have it identified where you need to be in case you lose that mode of communication. If something major happens, the phone lines are probably going to be all jammed up. Okay. You're not going to be
yeah.
able to get through, right?
And how many times have you been in a building where you
Don't have
sometimes
reception.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Something you gotta have something that's 100% foolproof. And
hmm
cell phones aren't it.
hmm And all of this could apply to an active shooter situation too. All of it could apply to this, you
Yeah.
know? So, um, it's one of these things that takes a little bit of planning, but not much. And it becomes second nature to you, but everybody needs to be on board with this. Okay. Because your team is only as good as your weakest link. And if everybody's on board with this and it's a simple plan that everybody can follow, you're probably your chances of success with that plan are going to be much, much higher. And shit, I mean, we could even take it in a different scenario. You're in a movie theater and some guy comes in there and starts shooting the place up. You and the person you're with are both armed. Well, do you have a plan? If this guy is shooting the place up and killing innocent people, right? Do you have a plan? That could be simply, I'm going to go here, you're going to go here. Here's how we're going to try to take this guy, right? If we're going to take him, if we can't get out, right? If we can get out of there, let's get out of there. Let's help other people out. If we can't, and we decide we have a chance to take it, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a plan. We're going to divide and conquer, right? So that's up to you. That's your individual SOP, right? And a lot of this is your individual SOP, and none of it is complicated. As we said, everything we've talked about here is almost common knowledge, but it's having the discipline, like we talked about before, to put something like that in place, and also to get other people looking too, and to be our own protective unit, right, for each other and all the other patriots that are out there, right? Find what's going on. If you see something, say something, do something, right? Pay attention to what the hell's going on. Don't say, "Oh, he's got Secret Service down there, and we're cool." Uh-uh. You are on guard. You are on point, right? You are watching what the hell is going on at all times, enjoying your time while you're there. You're not paranoid, but you're paying attention. And if you've got your family trained to do the same thing, you're talking to fellow patriots around you. When you see things, you need to alert. When you see something funny going down, you're going to see it. If it's in your area, you are going to see it because you're paying attention. So we need to do this. We need to be vigilant. We can't allow the shit that's happening to Shinzo Abe over in Japan, and this individual down in Ecuador. This is up to us, and it's also up to us to look out for all fellow patriots. And we need to pay attention to what's going on. We're not going to allow people to deposit pressure cookers along a parade route. You know what I mean? Ain't going to allow that shit because we're going to be paying attention. That ain't right. I see something right there sitting by it. That's not right. What's the comment, Chris?
This is actually a pretty good comment from Freedom US. There's some interesting research on gut feelings. Neuroscience has confirmed it's real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That
Absolutely, it's real. And that's my explanation that I gave before, but I think that explains things to me, and I think Chris agrees with me on this. Your body is taking in data subconsciously, and it's telling your brain something is up. Boom, be aware, right? You know, often animals are better at this than we are. Dogs are phenomenal with knowing something ain't right, because their receptors for data are much better, hearing, sight, smell, right? But dogs are constantly on the alert, right? Most dogs are, right? And we need to emulate that. We need to be alert and paying attention to what's going on, right? We've become too lazy, right? You know, a lot of that is genetics handed down over years, you know, with through wolf packs and stuff like that. There is, while some of the wolves are sleeping, some of them are paying attention, right? They get to sleep, the other ones are paying attention, kind of like that, right? They're even paying attention when they're sleeping, right? Chris, how many times have you seen your dog pop up in the middle of the night? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. He's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it happens. You
Yep.
might hear something or, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, that's his sensory, overload
Mm-hmm.
taking action going, hey, something's not right.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Pay attention at home. Pay attention to your pets. Okay.
Hmm.
That's what a dog is. A dog's an early warning system for
Yep.
you to get prepped, right? The dog is telling you something's out there. Pay attention. That's what a dog's job is. You know, now it's you to start putting that plan into action, right? It's the
Yeah.
same
And that
thing.
it isn't that really like the reason people buy dogs most of the time is to
So
kind of,
for
you know,
companionship and member of the family, but that's one of the things a dog brings to the table.
right.
Dog brings to the table. Hey, he's looking out for you. You're his family. You're his pack.
Yeah.
He's constantly looking out for you.
Hmm.
So, these are the things that we need to be doing. We need to emulate and be just like that. We need to be vigilant. We need to be aware. And it's not complicated. Come up with your own plan. Come up with your own home safety plan, right? Understanding certain things, right? So, you know, whatever we say, we're just giving this as a guide for you to develop your own system and work with your family and make sure they understand it. And I know you're going to have teenage kids that are not going to get it and fight you and this and that and all that other bullshit. You make them go through it. So we need to be vigilant now more than ever. We are seeing a meltdown from the deep state, and and we need to make sure that we get the right people in office to clean this mess up and start repairing the damage that's been done to our country and the world. You're seeing a completely avoidable, totally pushed war going on in Ukraine, where innocent people are just getting smoked and the whole country is just getting flattened. Why? None of it makes sense. Nobody can give you a real for democracy. Yeah, okay. So they just got rid of elections this year, right? For democracy, right? In Ukraine. Bullshit. We all know what's going on. We're on YouTube here, so I'm real careful about what we're saying, but I know that our listeners, Chris, know exactly what I'm talking about. Know exactly what I'm talking about. The hair should be up. Do not believe what you're being. Be dubious. The mainstream media pushes propaganda and narratives. They've lied to us so many times. Why would you ever listen to the narrative that has been pushed out? Recently, here we had a guy in in Utah make some threatening remarks towards the president on Facebook, which is un- unbelievably stupid. I mean, there might have been something wrong with this guy's head or something else, but it, the FBI shows up at his place. From what I understand, early morning, he might have still been asleep, and who knows if they kicked in his door. We don't know. We don't know the scenario, but we know that the mainstream media is starting to push the narrative. Oh, he had guns. He had a ghillie suit. He was a 75-year-old Air Force retiree who was 300 and some pounds, right? Could there have been a better scenario to try to get a hold of this guy and ask him what the hell is with these threats online? Maybe showing up, calling him and saying, "Hey, we're going to be stopping by at this time," instead of bursting in. And I'm not sure this is what happens, but this is what it sounds like happened. Uh, Basically, if somebody comes bursting into your house and you don't know who they are, what are you going to do? Try to defend yourself and your family, right? And these guys end up going in and smoking this dude who his I just think that could have been handled. And when we dissect what happened at Ruby Ridge, and we dissect what happened at the Branch Davidians, right, and all of that, we now see the narrative that was initially pushed, and then what really happened. And there's
What
a
what about the lady that died on January 6th, man? That got
yeah,
shot.
yeah.
Okay. Here,
Ashley,
here
and then another one was beaten to death by the Capitol Police.
yeah.
Beaten to death, and another one was damn near beaten to death. You know,
I mean, these things are starting to add up here.
this is crazy. How many people threatened Donald Trump, including was it the I think it was I don't remember his name, but I think he was one of McCain's advisors who basically said somebody needs to put a bullet in Donald Trump. That's what he said on MSNBC. Did the FBI go and burst in his house?
He said that?
Yes.
Huh. Wow.
Uh, I heard a whole montage this morning, and I remember when this went down. I heard a whole montage this morning related to what went on there. And you had Johnny Depp making threats against the president. You had Madonna making threats against the president. Kathy Griffin, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, all sorts of people. Not to mention all the loon jobs that were out there making threats. Just the skulls full of mush, little sheeple that follow all this bullshit. I didn't see too many people's doors getting. Oh, I did see Roger Stone and his deaf wife, his handicapped wife, have their door kicked in by a SWAT team in the middle of the night for a made up process crime.
Here, you know what? Along with this, I'm going to bring this up. Along with this, this is where I think I become uh, flabbergasted,
Mm-hmm.
because we have pictures that have come out in the media today, which now I'm starting to believe aren't real, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know. All I know is I see what's there. These people coming across the border that are armed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To me, here's the thing. To you and I, if we seen that on a security camera, or we seen that when we were in Iraq or something like that, that wouldn't that be perceived as a threat?
That would absolutely be perceived as a threat, and we would snap into action.
Right.
And we just had a video of dudes coming across the border, sneaking across the border. We're assuming they're cartel members with AR-15s and AKs coming across the border. And this
And
is because the border's wide open and we're allowing it.
so to me, if you're wouldn't in my opinion, and here's the thing, I don't know all the details, but to me that's kind of like an act of war,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
It
I'm
absolutely is. It absolutely is an act of war.
and,
Uh,
and here we got the FBI, um you know doing this to this guy that I mean, he has a history, but I mean, they could have just put somebody over there and watched him at his house or something. I don't know.
yeah, I said,
I
hey,
don't.
we need to talk to you. You need to turn yourself in,
Right.
dumbass. Good comments online. We need to see if you're a legitimate threat or not, right?
Yeah. Can you come outside
Instead
and
of,
have a
yeah,
conversation? I don't know what they're. I don't
yeah.
know. I
We
guess.
don't know what happened, but I can tell you, I don't believe what we're being told by the propagandist media who's lied to us on everything. So it just seems funny. Remember the guy from the Bundy Ranch too, who they a whole a whole FBI SWAT team followed off, and apparently he pulled the car over and wanted to get in a gunfight with the whole SWAT team. Now, Chris and I are going to give you a little tip out there. If you think you're going to take on a whole SWAT team, you are a dumbass. You comply and let them do whatever the hell they're going to do, because they're going to do it, or they're going to kill you. Or if you look
Yeah.
at Ruby Ridge, they're going to kill your family.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got to use your head, right? And Chris and I have said this. We think there are serious problems with these federal agencies. There's a lot of patriots in these agencies too, but these agencies need to be cleaned up. They need to be cleaned up. I mean, when we see these things, it seems like it comes out years after, like Ruby Ridge. We keep bringing that back up, you know. And Ruby Ridge, for all you guys that don't know, they pretty much set some dude up over a sawed-off shotgun, right? And then sent SWAT teams to spy on his family. His kid and the dog were out there, and these guys were up in the trees. The dog noticed them, and they shot the dog. And the kid shot back at the FBI agents because these strangers in their yard just shot their dog, right? Which started the whole melee, which his wife got killed. I think his son got killed. I don't remember the whole deal on this. But when you look at how this whole thing went down, it's always over weapons some way or another, right? And apparently he was meeting with an undercover informant, and he was telling him how to cut the shotgun. Initially, apparently, from what I understand, allegedly, he said, no, that would be illegal. And he said, no, 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 no. This wouldn't be illegal if you cut it this way, which he did. And that's what prompted them to go after. I mean, this is just crazy stuff. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the full story there. So I don't want to make it sound like this is cut and dry and this and that. We don't have the full story, and that's the sad thing, because we don't have a legitimate, honest media in this country that gives us the full story. But and this is the same people that get pulled over. If you get pulled over, okay, you probably did something wrong. But if you get pulled over and say you get an asshole cop, right? Do not start to resist. Do not do that. Okay, everything is on video now. If you've got an asshole cop that's violating your constitutional rights, you deal with that afterwards. You don't start getting into a pissing match with a police officer or the FBI, and you don't make threats. I mean, how stupid can you be to put threats like? I mean, the guy got killed for being a dumbass. I mean, that's not how we solve things here. We solve things here by following and adhering to the rule of law. What they do is throw the rule of law aside. So pay attention to what's going on. See, and don't be stupid. Don't let your emotion get you into something that you can't get out of, or your family can't get out of. Think things through. And sometimes thinking those through is like, okay, this guy's wrong. He's an asshole. I'm not going to intimidate. I'm not going to even speak back or anything else. Let him do what and then I can take this up. You got freedom of information requests with the cameras and everything else, and you sort that out later. We've all been there. I'm a cop myself. I used to be a cop. Okay, so I've seen good cops and bad cops. And believe me, if somebody is doing something and violating your constitutional rights, that does not give you a reason. And this is what they're telling people in the inner city community. Everybody's automatically just prepoed to fight and resist. You do not fight and resist. That's going to get you hurt or killed. If somebody has violated your rights one more time, you deal with it later. You get a lawyer and deal with it later. So that's my little deal on that. So, some guy here, I'm in a parking lot again, guys, because my internet sucks like really bad. And some douchebag pulls in and points the lights right at me and just sits there. She just moved right now, and she's doing a U-turn. But yeah,
I just wanted to see who was in there. They're
yeah,
they're doing
exactly.
some situational awareness.
Yeah, that's what I think she was. That, and she was being real. She was being real sly about it. She pulls right up to the front of my car and puts the lights there. Right. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
So there are real threats against us out there. Okay, there are real threats against us out there, and patriots and the people that we support. Right now, Donald Trump is leading Biden and everybody else by a country mile. Right. That's why he's going to get another indictment, a bullshit indictment by another crooked prosecutor out of Atlanta. That's coming next. They think the way they can get Trump. Here's something that's interesting, Chris. They did a poll, and the only way they think according to these polls, is if Trump gets found guilty by one of these things and thrown in jail. Then people would say I would be reticent to vote for him at that stage, right? So they're going to set up this bogus deal in Washington, D.C. and try to arrest him. I think he's going to get arrested at some stage here. They're going to try to throw him in jail.
Hmm.
They're definitely going to. And if this doesn't work, I really fear for him. As you know, we talked about Dan Bongino and Alex Jones. We're talking. That means we need to be vigilant. And I also fear for Robert Kennedy Jr. because he's saying a lot of things that are pissing these people off. And he represents a threat to them as well. These entities, these globalist elites, right? The deep state. So you're seeing it happen all. You saw this story in Japan where Shinzo Abe was killed, right? He was a populist too, right? Um, Working with Trump, was going to run for office again, right? Uh, I don't believe that for a minute. This guy made a homemade shotgun and killed him right there. I don't believe that for a minute. He was a threat to the New World Order. Putin is a threat to the New World Order.
Hmm.
He is. You know, not saying he's a good guy, but he ain't buying into any of this stuff. So,
Yeah, he's
you
kind of
know,
he's on his own path for sure.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. And
Yeah.
those are threats to the globalist elite that think that they're going to get us all. You know, here's another thing I saw today, Chris. Uh, the company that released all of these mosquitoes, 1 billion mosquitoes, where people start showing up with malaria, the EPA has approved them to release 2 billion more mosquitoes.
What?
These genetically modified mosquitoes.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
What are they thinking?
Isn't it
What?
funny? Down in South Florida, and I'm just throwing this out there, okay? You guys can put two and two together. Down in South Florida in the summertime, it's called the rainy season. It rains almost every day. They've had hardly any rain. Up here in northern Wisconsin, we've had hardly any rain, right? Now, do we know that they can play with environmental factors? The Chinese brag about it, right? With seeding clouds and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it just because they need to reduce the population. You have Bill Gates out there and other guys up there doing TED Talks talking about reducing population. Okay, we talk about it all the time. Net zero by 2030. 60% of agriculture they're going to get rid of. They're going to get rid of virtually all airports. The elites will have their chain of airports they'll fly in and out of. You're going to be limited to a 15-minute city. This is where the EV comes in. It won't allow you to travel across the country, right? You're not going to be allowed to. And you're not going to have private property. And here's something else. There are some people saying they're going to limit the amount of gold somebody could own and maybe exclude anybody from owning gold, period. You know, they're trying to get us into this digital currency. And if you have gold, you can go around that digital currency, right? Where they control everything. They want they want to run every aspect of your life. Your car will be telling them, your phone will be telling them, your appliances in the house will be telling them information about what you're doing. Anything you do online is telling them what you're doing, right? They control you. This is what we're fighting for. And anybody Anybody who doesn't understand this is a moron. We are fighting for the future of our country and the world, really. If you follow what's going on, it's not just happening here, it's happening across the world. And we need to be paying attention now more than ever. I hope you guys learned something tonight from the situational awareness. Like I said, there's nothing ground breaking or earth shattering with any of that stuff. It's more common sense. And this is what we need to pay attention to: common sense and discipline, right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have it. I mean, especially if you're going into an unknown place, somewhere you've never been before or something. um, you know, turn your situational awareness up, turn that color code up a one notch. Start
Mm-hmm.
paying attention, see what's going on around you, notice things, and definitely have a plan. And especially if you're you mentioned this before, especially if you're with somebody, one of your spouse, your children, whatever it is. And you have the right to protect them also and yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
be of good discipline, and be of good behavior. And a good greeting goes a long way, but at the same time, you got to keep your alertness up, for sure.
Absolutely. Stay in the yellow.
Yeah,
Stay in the yellow.
stay
Okay.
in the yellow.
So, yeah, we had all these fires out in Hawaii right now. They're saying 65 people are dead. You seen this?
I didn't hear a body count. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
65 people dead. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Isn't that like the
Um,
island will burn right to the water? Sort of. I mean, I don't
yeah, I
know.
mean, they're
I don't know.
I'm
Isn't
not
that
even
possible?
sure what's I haven't been paying attention to all of this, but it's on the pictures I've seen are unbelievable. And
Wow.
the reason why I bring this up is somebody said Murdoch was seen coming in from some Pacific island in California. Did you get that update, Chris?
I did not. Man, you got to be kidding
This
me, right?
guy, this freaking guy, you know, shit. I
Dude.
mean,
I
you
wonder
want,
if he was one of the guys that were crossing the border with a gun.
you know what? Yeah, I mean, Chris, you've gotten up close to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've gotten to within arm's reach of this son of a bitch. Do one of those guys look like it could have been him?
Man, I don't know. I think those guys are a little small, but I mean,
Yeah.
what there could have been a bad angle or something. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these
Yeah.
guys. I mean, the body armor, the weapons. This guy's
Yeah.
slick. You know.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Well,
man,
how
oh
would
man.
you if somebody did run across this guy? There's a couple distinguishing features. We already established. If you have the glasses, it'll tell you for sure, right?
Right.
Not everybody has access to those glasses, right?
For sure.
In lieu of the glasses, there is an odor type issue associated with Murdoch, isn't there?
There is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind of like a musty, yeah, something, you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
sulfurish something. You know what I mean?
Sulfurish. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but how do? Yeah, that's the best way to put it, I guess. You know.
So,
Yeah.
we're not telling you to approach him. It's best to be aware, like we were talking about. And if you see something, say something to somebody. But if you're going to approach somebody like that, what, Chris, tell the folks out there what the best way to do it is.
Wow. You know, you have got to be on your game. And we've been saying a lot
Mm-hmm.
tonight about situational awareness. So be on your game. If you're going to approach this person, um, this Murdoch person, we call him, right?
This snake, lizard,
S-
whatever the hell he is.
Slimy, whatever, right? See, here
Mm-hmm.
he's here one day, there the next, getting around, causing problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely have somebody with you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and get close. And you may not if you get close, you may want to give him a message.
Yeah. What's that
If you feel,
message that you'd give him, Chris?
you tell him, Murdoch, the Green Beret life is coming to get you.
Thank you for joining us, guys. Please give us feedback. Let us know if you enjoyed some of these things that we've been trying to do lately. We've been taking a little bit of a detour to what we normally do. We hope you guys enjoy it. We hope we're providing some information and some help. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. If you know of anybody that's going to be in the area up here to get the free CCW class and pistol fundamentals, to be able to follow the law and do everything legally, right? And practice your constitutional rights, to be able to protect yourself, your family, and others, right? If you know anybody, send them our way. Give us the email, give them the email address, and we can go from there. So uh, thank you again, and we will see you next Thursday. Thanks, guys.